He shook his head from side to side, willing it not to be so. No, no. His lips moved with the words, but he almost wasn't aware of his voice. They were going to have a baby. They were going to be happy. They were going to be a family. The wetness rolled down his cheeks before it registered in his brain that he was crying. The cop reached out to him, trying to console him as he crumpled to the ground. 3 days later. Flashbacks of swimming in and out of consciousness during her rescue from the mangled vehicle, riding in the back of an ambulance to the hospital, and surgeons operating on her surfaced as she felt herself coming up through the layers of sleep and pain meds. Everything felt numb, except the thoughts and memories swirling around in her head. All she had wanted to do was get away from the beatings and his verbal abuse. She figured now she'd get it sitting in a jail cell, rotting away. How ironic that after years of hoping she'd see him behind bars, she would be the one doing time. She'd only been drinking that night because he kept forcing it on her. Usually she never touched the stuff. Hot tears stung her eyes before spilling down her cheeks, and she realized she was crying. Her senses were finally starting to adjust as her brain shook off the effects of the meds. The disinfectant smell of the hospital made her head hurt. Unfortunately for her, someone had opened the blinds in her room, letting in the sunlight. Despite the number of hospital visits she had since being married to Jason, she never warmed to the atmosphere or felt safe. The sickening smell of the cleaning products, which tried to mask the stench of illness and death, always unsettled her stomach. The small beeping noises of the monitors and machines only intensified her headache. Why does the room have to be so bright? Even though the medicine was keeping her brain from registering the acute pain, she still felt the heaviness in her limbs. Someone entered the room, disrupting her thoughts. She lifted her head and saw an older woman dressed in nurse's scrubs approaching her bed. The woman gave her a warm smile. "Honey, we are so glad to see you're awake. We had to sedate you for a while to allow you to heal without having to experience the pain while you're awake." Staring at the woman, she licked her lips. "Oh, sweetie, let me get you some water. Your throat must be parched." Reaching over to the side table, the nurse retrieved a cup that sat next to a pitcher of water. After she poured water and stuck a straw into the cup, she raised it to Gemma's lips and held it as she drank. Once she moved the cup, Gemma finally attempted to speak. "The other person, the car, are they dead?" A sad expression flitted across her face, and the nurse patted her shoulder. "Why don't I get the doctor?" Swallowing, Gemma nodded her head. As the nurse exited the room, Jenna went to move her arm, and that's when she saw her wrist handcuffed to the bed. At that moment, the doctor entered the room with a cop on his heels. Silent tears streamed down her face as the cop began to read Gemma her rights, and then told her she was being charged with involuntary vehicular manslaughter because she had a blood alcohol level over the legal limit. She nodded her head in acknowledgement when the cop asked if she understood. Finally, the doctor got the officer to leave the room so he could tend to his patient. He gave her a sympathetic look. She averted her gaze as he began to explain all the damage her body endured from the accident, and then he cleared his throat to get her attention again. Gemma looked at the doctor. "We noticed, as we worked on you, that you had older bruises and bones which had previously been reset and healed." He seemed a little uncomfortable. "Usually, that kind of thing is indicative of abuse. A man who claimed to be your husband—" He saw Gemma's eyes grow wide with fear as she attempted to try and lift herself from the bed. Materializing from nowhere, the nurse from earlier helped the doctor restrain her. "Miss, please lay back down. You'll tear stitches and re-injure yourself. You don't need to be frightened. We didn't let him in to see you. He got too aggressive with some of our staff after we refused him entrance to your room. However, considering the old scars and evidence of what I suspected, I figured it was for the best." Once she settled down again, the doctor continued speaking.